Hey y'all. I saw this video today and I thought it was so funny. Um because a lot of people don't want to talk about this, right? And this is something that women in particular need to talk about because a lot of women a lot of women's growth and a lot of our growth is very stunted because we refuse to see ourselves. And there is this thing that I keep seeing people say, and I understand it, right? How children are mad, especially boy children that turn into men, are mad at the parent that stayed, right? But it seems that women want to never look inward and consider this, right? And consider that it's not just enough to do what you're supposed to do, right? Taking care of your responsibilities is not automatically accountability. You chose to have a child, you feeding them, clothing them, keeping a roof over their head is the bare minimum. And so many women refuse to admit that. They refuse to take full accountability, right? As a child that experience certain things. And there are more videos to come of women talking about these things and about their childhood that I'm going to show you. That shows and proves what we already know, including the women that say this, right? That it's not enough to just have stayed. You're the mother. You have the portal, you have the womb, you stayed great. You want to hand clap for that? You want to hand clap for not neglecting the child that you birthed? As soon as women will admit that your children are yours more than they will be any man's, daddy's baby, mama's maybe, you'll be able to start seeing yourself and other women clearly. And then women can start to even think about creating a new child, new children, which means a new community, right? Thank y'all so much for being here. My name is Danielle LaVirgo, and I am a shadow goddess. I help guide young women, women of all ages, and mostly myself through the journey of shadow work, through coming into a place of comfort with your shadow self, the self that this world tells us we are not supposed to be and we're not supposed to be comfortable with. But if you don't recognize your shadow, if you don't become comfortable with and in your shadow, you won't know how to align yourself. You won't know how to trust yourself. You don't won't know how to build a continuous relationship of alignment, being and showing up as your true self in this world while remaining joyful and safe at the same time, while creating and manifesting a life that you deserve. Shadow works come from getting comfortable with the parts of yourself that sees and knows the good, the bad, the ugly. And us being allowing ourselves to be stripped and untethered from that is why a lot of us are in the predicament we're in, why this world is in the predicament that we're in. When you don't recognize your triggers, when you don't understand them, you can't control them and they control you. They control your emotions. Your emotions is how you manifest, is how you create your true reality. What comes out of your mouth and your actual belief system sometimes are not aligned. And unless you do shadow work, you don't see the truth enough to even be able to think that you're even misaligned to be able to think to want to do better, right? So we talk about those things. We dive deep into the things that women and people in general choose to ignore. I fundamentally believe, because it's true, that women are the ultimate source. We're the portal. We have the most responsibility of what we bring into this dimension. Every child, every person that we bring into this realm was a choice made by us. And the illusion that is anybody else's choice but yours is a lie. Get from under the spell of patriarchy. Shadow work will help you do that. Okay? This notion that women pretending that children are just as much a man's responsibility as it is theirs is a lie. They show you every day by their lack of ability to participate. They don't carry that child. That child does not have a parasitic relationship with their body. It does, however, have one with yours. And we're going to get into it because women have to learn to heed and listen to the wisdom of the matriarch, to the wisdom of other women who came before you and who knows better. The thing that set me apart from other people, even in my immediate life, and me being able to wield my reality and wield my life and not fall into the same snares set before me was my willingness to listen to my elders, my willingness to listen to the matriarchs in my family. And for me, that wasn't my mother. For me, that was my aunts. That was women who were older than me who told me not to prioritize being in relationships with men and getting married, which is the opposite of what my very patriarchal, very religious household taught me, right? But because I listened to them, it eliminated so much turmoil. You do not have to be drugged through the mud, right? There are women from all backgrounds coming in and saying the exact same thing, right? There are women that have experienced abuse and manipulation and narcissism and violence at the hands of men and trauma at the hands of men that I never experienced because since I was a little girl, I was tapped in enough to listen to my intuition. So I am someone coming before you speaking from the lens of having fully avoided traumatic relationships with men, right? Because I trusted what I saw, regardless of what my parents told me, even as a little girl. That is what we need to teach young women, our daughters, our cousins, our nieces, our every that is what we need to be teaching each other for women who never got these messages. You do not have to be drugged through the mud in order to learn and pick up a lesson. You can observe, you can step outside of yourself. The main way to successfully do shadow work and to learn your patterns and to learn your triggers is to learn how to observe yourself, to step outside of your human experience for a moment and see, right? And see what is happening. We are having children because our parts work, and that is unacceptable, and the divine feminine is not pleased. And the dark divine feminine, even less. So stepping outside of yourself, it's so easy. I don't know why it's so difficult for women to listen to matriarchs because they want to listen to men so badly. Listen to the matriarchal women who are giving you messages to empower you so that you can be a powerful entity in your own right, so you can choose and be comfortable with your ability to choose and be solid in that no matter the result. A lot of us don't know how to do those things. We don't know what that looks like in everyday practice, right? So many of us are able to see our friend situations, our cousin situations, our parent situations. We're able to see because we are not immersed in it, we're not within it. Right? We're able to see what's going on in the relationships of other people with more clarity than with ourselves because we're in the thick of our own relationship. So we have to train and teach ourselves how to remove the emotional connection that we have to a particular situation or relationship in order to fully observe it through a lens of a non-biased lens, right? That's a skill. That's a skill set that I teach because I know it works. That's how you figure out what your triggers are. You step outside of yourself. You look at your relationships, you look at a situation as if you are not in it. Replace yourself with anybody else if you need to do that to be able to see things for what they are. That is why we are so easily able to see clearly what other people don't see in their relationships, but we don't see that in ours. We have to get rid of this thing humans have with wanting to be the exception to the rule, when the rule is the rule because of the majority of us, right? Stop operating and making choices to have children, to be in relationships, to stay in relationships. But in this case, we're talking about having children and the impact your choices and lack of self awareness have on your children and ultimately the community as a whole. So, I'm going to show you my first video where they're discussing this. And it is very important for women of all ages to listen and take heed because every choice that you make has an impact on your children and thus on the community. And everyone's choice to bring a child into this dimension is a selfish choice and it's one that is not taken seriously. So if you're going to make that selfish choice, you need to be top tier.
For your honesty in the space. It is greatly appreciated. I think more young women need to hear this, and I think a lot of the elders need to have more of these conversations with these young women. Because I will use me as an example. I once really, really, really wanted to get married. I loved kids. I wanted to have a really big family. And I couldn't figure out why it wouldn't really work for me. It's not like I went out and like dated a whole lot of men or anything like that. I grew up in a strict household, so that was a no go. But I kind of was just observing how men were moving, and I was like, if I'm moving this way, like I want to be a wife, why these men ain't moving like they want to be a husband? And then that's when I realized that the shit was an illusion. The shit is not real. This fairy tale that they sold to women, like, oh, you can have the career and then you get your husband and then you have kids and you have a family legacy and you build and you do all this stuff. That shit never existed. I thought that it was just this generation. I thought like, oh no, that shit's dying out. I thought we was losing recipes. Nah, that shit never existed. Thank you so much for your honesty in the space. It is greatly appreciated. I think more young.
So the comment that she's replying to says, marriage and motherhood ruined me physically and mentally. Marriage didn't prevent me from becoming a single parent. I'm angry at the church and my parents because it was all a lie, an illusion, right? And this goes hand in hand with exactly what I was saying, right? This go hand in hand with what I was saying. I also grew up in a very religious, very patriarchal household. My ability to trust my intuition, even as a child, is what saved me. My willingness to listen to the matriarchs in my family was a big, played a big part into why I was able to create a happy, fulfilled life that didn't involve me playing into what I was told and attempted to be conditioned as believing how we are supposed to live. Your purpose as a woman is not to populate the earth. Your purpose as a woman is not to be a man's piece. Just like a man's purpose is not to come and be your servant, right? We may have created men to do that because we have praise and worship and humiliation kinks, but they're conscious beings to the point where we need them to have and reproduce and have children. So let go of the idea that they are here to worship you, right? Now, would they be happier if they just did that? Yes, to some degree, because I don't believe anyone, y'all see how quick I am? I don't believe anyone should be here to serve anyone, right? I'm not a shadow goddess that believe I don't I'm balanced, right? I don't believe men should be here to serve me. I believe men should be here to do the exact same thing I'm here to do, align themselves with their highest self, right? Each and every one has to get out of our own way. And if we don't, we will continue to do this because what happens is just like in this situation here, women end up having children, creating families, getting left as single parents because they believe the lie. But women have to admit that they do not like to listen. You need to teach your daughters to listen to wisdom, but in order to teach them that, you have to know to listen to wisdom and also to be so in touch with your intuition that you know who to listen to, right? You know when something doesn't sit right in your spirit. I grew up my entire life being told that men are supposed to lead, men are supposed to guide. But what I observed, just like this young woman said, was the exact opposite, right? I grew up in a bubble. And it wasn't until I was able to get up, get out, work, be around men that wasn't my parents weren't everywhere I went, where I was like, this is not it. And even my own brothers who were also raised in a patriarchal household. So my brothers, my mom, my dad sent me in the house. No being outside and mowing grass and stuff like that. Go in the house, do laundry, cook, clean. Yes, literally wife school. And my brothers was outside changing tires and changing oil and mowing the grass and washing the cars. Yes. So, and I still manage to be true to myself because I trusted myself more than my own parents. I trusted what I felt as a little girl in me, right? A lot of that stuff eventually I didn't lose, it was just in my subconscious. So now that I'm more conscious and more aware of my subconscious, I was able to bring those things back up, bring those memories back to my conscious. And so I listen to my elders, to my elder matriarchs in my family when they told me, prioritize yourself. My aunts would tell me, and these are my dad's siblings, my dad's sisters who were older than him, would tell me, enjoy your life. Don't worry about having kids and getting a husband. If you want to do that, wait and do that later. Go out, travel, see the world, do what you want, learn for yourself. They saw what I was being trained and conditioned. Now, I don't know. Me and my sister took very different routes, but I don't know if they told her the same thing. I don't know if she remembers if they did, but they told me. Sometimes I might ask her, but sometimes when you're an older woman, you see that spark in women. You see that spark in young women. I see that spark in my friends' daughters, right? And without getting out of line, because I'm not their mothers, I share my wisdom with them, and I do it in the exact same way my aunts did me. I don't do too much. I don't dishonor what their moms are teaching them, but I allow my existence and my life to show them that there's other ways to exist and to be happy, right? That you don't have to do what your parents did. You don't have to do what your parents have taught you to do or what you've seen, because no matter what we say as women, your children do as you do. They don't do as you say. And every generation thinks they're going to be the generation that are able to birth and raise and rear children who are going to do what they say rather than what they do. Children are always watching. And it's very important to nurture that, nurture the skills in children. You can't tell, when your kids become adults, they're going to do what they want to do. Your only job is to nurture and give them the skills and tools to be comfortable with not following the crowd, with making decisions for them, even if other people, including you as the parent, disagree. And so we're going to read some of these comments, because regardless of what people say about how faulty the internet is, the comment section, for the most part, especially in videos like this, these are real women speaking about their experiences, right? And I love that she was of a similar mindset as I was. And it also saved herself some trouble. You know why? Because she believed herself over the illusion. This young lady here who wrote the comment that said, marriage and motherhood ruined me physically and mentally. And she's angry at the church and at her parents for lying to her. You have to understand that everyone is being conditioned. So our parents do the best that we can, do the best that they can, rather, with the limited information that they have. Now, is that an excuse? No. Cut off who needs to be cut off. Keep your boundaries strict and enforce the way you need to. But understand, but in a way to free yourself from the burden of anger, first immerse yourself in anger. Immerse yourself in anger from being lied to, but don't stay there. Understand that your parents, the people around you, they don't know better. So that's why you have to trust yourself more than you trust a bunch of people just operating off of automation and their subconscious, operating off of the program. You have to trust yourself more than those who are in the program. You have to recognize that they're in the program. Keep them boundary strict, because every decision you make as the mother has an effect and impact on your children. And every generation thinks that their generation is somehow better and the newer generation have it messed up. But as she said, every generation is the same, because Earth is a cycle of cycles. It's a different version of the same shit. And yet everybody, for some reason, is under this illusion that it's just us, it's not them. No, every choice you make can bring you closer or further away to your autonomy being stripped away. So people are thinking marriage and children is definitely a fairy tale. This person says there's nothing wrong with marriage and motherhood themselves, but we aren't telling the truth about what is required in our current society. That's the lie. We used to live in multi-generational homes within tight communities. We used to grow our own food and thus spend more time in nature. And this is the thing, right? There have always been women, matriarchs, screaming from the mountaintops to younger women to focus on yourself. But you know what women do? You know what most women do? They don't listen. The majority of women do not listen. And that's your downfall. Somebody can tell you 1,000 times, don't have that baby, don't have that baby, but you'll go and do it anyway. Women's own disgust for their own nature and other women themselves is self-hatred. Yeah, that'll do it. That will do. This is the other video that I
An
wanted to
affair,
show.
right? My dad was married when I was conceived, and I never knew him. Like I knew his name. I don't even think I knew he had children, but I met his side of the family at his funeral. Right? It had my mom got word that he had died, and I think that is when I realized, like, dang, that's my dad. Okay, but I went to the funeral. Like I said, I was 9 or 10, and y'all, the way that I remember the scene of this funeral, even at this age, is crazy. But at the same time, it makes sense because I've been dealing a lot with trying to break off rejection and how I perceive rejection, or even things that's not even really rejection. But so yeah, me at 9 or 10, I remember going to the funeral with my mom. Um, and I always had really bad anxiety, y'all. When I tell y'all, I've always dealt with really bad anxiety, but I remember how bad like my anxiety was this day. We sat like almost in the back of the church. Um, and I remember going up. I can't remember anything about the service, like leading up to this point, but I remember going up to the casket, which I did not want to do. I went up to the casket with my mom, and his wife was sitting in the front row. And I remember her looking at me, and then looking at my mom, then looking at me, and then looking at my mom with this look. And I don't know. I just remember like an outburst, whether she was crying or whatever. I just remember an outburst, and it made me feel really bad. I don't know if I felt bad for her or just bad because A, I didn't want to be in that situation anyway. And it was just weird. I've always been like, very in tune with other people's emotions. Like I feel everything in a room, but I remember how uncomfortable I was, A, with the way she looked at me, and then B, with the outburst. I can't even remember what the outburst was, but I remember I was really uncomfortable. Okay. By the end of the funeral, and you know how people kind of um be standing around outside, whatever. It had gotten word like, hey, this is his daughter. And mind you, my siblings are older than my mom. So it's not like I'm looking at his kids that are my same age. No, they are older than my mom, y'all. So I remember being outside with a whole bunch of like commotion outside. And then I came and I was just kind of tossed around like, yeah, this is his daughter, da 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 da. And I remember every look on people's faces, whether it was like his brothers, um, even my siblings. For the most part, I feel like most of the siblings were A, they're dealing with the death of their father, and B, y'all got this little girl um coming up saying like the day of his funeral, like that's y'all little sister, and they're just supposed to process losing their dad, and this little girl sitting in front of them, like being introduced as their little sister, right? So I remember how uncomfortable that was, but for the most part, I will say, um, I got some of them that was looking at me like, "Oh my God, she looks just like him." Oh my God, and they were crying. Like it was a weird time. But then I remember one sister in particular. Um, she was like, "Well, she's gonna have to get in the family car with us." And I remember somebody was like, "Well, if she get in the family car, I'm not getting in the family car." And I'm like, okay, so I didn't. Like, I rode with my mom. I didn't want to get in the car. Yo, I didn't even want to be there, but I didn't want to get in the car anyway. But I remember somebody being upset about that. And I remember hearing a whole bunch of things like, well, who is she? Like, where does she come from? I remember all of this, y'all. So, after that, they go to the repast. We were at a house, and my mom kind of left me by myself. So I was left, um, to hear like all the chatter, like all the chit chat. And I remember how uncomfortable I was. Like these adults, again, keeping in mind that I have what 11 siblings. It's 11 of us total, and just being tossed around, and I felt like a piece of something. I didn't feel like a person. I just felt like something that people were just kind of gawking at and trying to figure out. Like it was extremely uncomfortable. I never told my mom like what that felt like or how that made me feel, because I was by that time used to like holding in, my emotions or whatever. But I remember, I don't know if my mom left. I honestly think she left. Yeah, I think she left, like, in whatever. I think she left, but I remember just kind of being tossed around, and I didn't like that feeling, right? I had this one sister in particular that would, like, she worked really, really hard to build a relationship with me after the fact. And you could tell it was like really genuine. Like, she would pick me up on weekends. And mind you, like I said, she's probably like the same age as my mom. So it was almost like going to a second mom. It didn't really feel like a sister. Her daughter, which was my niece, was older than me and got pregnant. Like, it was just weird. It was weird. I was a great aunt at like 10. But anyway, so she would pick me up like in the summertime, and you could just tell it was really genuine. Um, but after a while, like, she would, like, we would go to family reunions, and again, I would deal with the same like issues of people just, I don't know. I feel like my sister worked really hard to try to shield me from it. Like, she was hoping I didn't notice or hear conversations, but at the same time, like I said, I would feel everything, like people's emotions, like people's vibe. I don't know if it's like vibe or energy or whatever, like that greets me before their words do. So you don't even have to say nothing, I immediately can feel stuff around people. So I remember going to like the family reunions or any family function.
See, and this is what I had to pause it. I wanted to play it out, but whatever. I had to pause it because this is what I mean. This is the result of women not doing the work before they have children, or having children for some nefarious reason. Because long story short, her mother used her with no care or concern about the impact. And parents are under this delusion that children don't see, and children don't understand, and children don't watch and pay attention. They see everything you're doing. Your children, the same way Black people understand white people because we've had to observe them for our own safety, is the same way children watch their parents. You are their entire world. They watch everything that you do. And then when children get older and bring things back up from their childhood, suddenly parents gaslight you. Suddenly they don't remember. They don't remember doing any of this shit. Her mother thought it was smart, acceptable, appropriate to bring her to her father's funeral. You had a baby with a married man. Then you brought the child to the funeral. The child, what was the point? She never even knew him. But you did it to spite his wife. You did it to spite whoever. You chose to have a child when you could have made a different choice. You could have aborted the mission. And I'm not saying that in terms of, I wish this lady wasn't here, right? Keep up. I'm saying this in terms of when it comes down to making a decision, women want it to be everybody else's fault but theirs. It is not enough to be the parent who stayed. And this looks different for everyone, right? Maybe your mother didn't go to this extreme. Maybe you didn't go to this extreme with your kids. But when you choose to have a child with a married person and you know that child, automatically your child is going to have a subpar life. Why would you bring them here? Because you have your own trauma and your own issues, and you don't give a damn about how it affects your children. That much is clear. Crystal.
It was just always this weird thing. I would always get like love from her, but then when you introduced me to somebody, it just felt really weird. Then it was another sibling that worked. Like, okay, so she would be mad if this one sister picked me up for a weekend, and she'd be like, "You always get her. Why can't I get her?" It was never. I don't know. It just made me feel like an object to be passed around and shown. And then when she
Mm-hmm.
had me, she had to call everybody and let them know I was.
See? Selfish. She felt like an object being passed around. She was weaponized by her mother against her dad's wife, against her dad's other children. She was weaponized by multiple people in her family. This is what moms are choosing to do to their children, and it does have an impact. And we're going to go through some of these comments because these comments are very telling. Women, the feminine can be so chaotic and destructive. This is why shadow work is absolutely necessary.
Was
This,
with her. And then people would come over just to see me, like, not, it did not feel like a way like, oh my God, I'm just interested in building a relationship. Where it was people just, older people just looking and trying to pick me apart, like at a young age, y'all. And I hated it.
because children are the lowest class citizens in the world. People treat their dogs better than they treat children. The fact that parents act like children aren't sentient beings who are actually closer to the ether than you are. So they have deep understanding, even if they don't, they feel it. That energy resides in them. And that's why, as a child free person, I am very passionate about this. And I will always judge parents, and I'll do it for fucking free. Because a lot of y'all don't deserve the children that you have. And the children that you have deserve more than you. And y'all have these children, and y'all don't respect your own children enough to not do this shit in front of them. And it angers the divine feminine in me. It angers me. You bitches better be glad I'm not the goddess of fertility, or all you bitches would be barren. Y'all are violent. You're dismissive. You have narcissistic tendencies. You don't give a fuck about your children. You weaponize your children and you don't care what it costs them. And you think, like this comment right here says, it's a shame that you felt that. Shame is the weird feeling. I don't know why she's typing like talking like that. Shame is the weird feeling. You felt the shame that your mother should have felt. Don't hold that. It's not yours to carry. That is easy to say, but it is not realistic. It doesn't matter whether it's yours to carry. She's a product of a shameful situation. She was born with shame. So whether you think that it's not hers to carry or not, that is not going to, saying that is not going to make her lose that shame. And it's also dismissive of the very important choice it is to bring children into these fucked up situations women keep having children in, creating this trauma. And you think, again, just by telling the child in her that it's not hers to carry, that doesn't mean shit. That does not remove her entire life. And that's actually gaslighting in a way. That's not how she meant it to be, but that's what it is. And this is avoidable.
Like, I would literally sit there all day hoping my other sister hurry up and pick me up. Like, I don't want to be here. I don't feel like she don't want a relationship. It felt like she just wanted to pass me around or show me off like an object. It was extremely weird, y'all. So fast forward, I kind of lost touch once I got older. Like I said, this was like 10 to maybe 13. Once I got older, um, I stopped just going around. Um, just because I don't know, it just didn't set right. I just felt like I wasn't comfortable with that side. And now that I have a choice, I don't have to, I was dealing with my friends at school on the weekends. Like, I didn't have to do that. I didn't have to deal with that, whatever. And then there was one
Oh, I done switch videos.
So I'm 55 and I just left my husband of 28 years.
Let me go back to the video. Well, honestly, that's enough. I don't even really want to hear anymore. I don't even really want to hear anymore. Um, because long story short, right? Long story short, she has to deal with the repercussions of her mother's poor decisions, of her mother's manipulation, of her mother's weaponization of her very existence. No, I want to go through some of these comments. So we are actually not done because I want to go through some of these comments because these comments are how you get to see how women think. And then you look at this and you go internally, right? It's for you to look and you to discuss these things, point out these things within yourself if they exist, right? If you share opinions, dissect those. I do it all the time, right? There's levels to everything. So, yes, there's levels to the fact that she is not just the mom's fault, right? The mom had a baby. It's not just the mom's fault. The mom isn't the one that was married. The dad is married. It's not the mom's, his marriage is not her concern because that's his marriage. So there's levels, there's multiple ways to look at something, but you have to go through the levels. You have to dig beneath the surface. The surface is, well, it was his marriage, so he should have paid it. It's his marriage, he should respect his marriage. You shouldn't expect them to respect your marriage and you don't even respect it. Not good enough, babe, it's not good enough. Look inward. You can't make a man do anything. If you decide to have an affair with a married man, don't get pregnant. I don't believe in, just calling something right or wrong, right? I don't believe in that. It's not that simple. So, right and wrong, good and bad, whatever you want to call it, I'm not here to say what is right, what is wrong. But when you choose to do something like be in a relationship with a married person for whatever benefits you're getting, don't bring children into it, period. Don't go finding a moral compass now when it's time to go to the clinic. Go and take your ass to the clinic where you need to be. Okay? But we're going to go through some of these comments. So let me share my screen again.
his name. I don't even think I knew he had children.
Okay. So let me pause this because this is how y'all see how women think. Because people act like the internet is not real. People act like, you know, I'm gonna blow it up a bit so y'all can see it. Hopefully, y'all can see it a little bit better, but I'll read it regardless. But people act like their choices don't affect, like, women's thing is they want to blame men for everything. Women want to put so much responsibility for their children onto men so that they don't have to eat it. It doesn't matter what you think, it doesn't matter what you want to be true, it's going to be true regardless. It's going to be true regardless of what you want it to be. So let's look at this comment right here. Right up top, she said, it's not just your mom's fault. Your dad was way at fault because he was way older and probably used your mom. I think the mom may have been like underage, which is a whole other topic, right? But neither here nor there. This is why you teach your young girls these skill sets early, because they are prey for old men in their teenage years and sometimes younger. He was way older and probably used your mom, who did not know better. She did what she thought was okay at the time. So the blame is not hers only. We don't do that here, right? We know this man have fault. We know old men prey on young women. We know married men stay in singles women's DMs and don't give a fuck. I'm not responsible for somebody else's marriage. Don't give a fuck about that. That's his marriage. That's her marriage. That's their problem. So if I choose to have an affair with a married man, you best believe I'm not bringing any children into it. And if I want to be a heathen all the way and go to the fucking chop shop when it's time to, if you can't be responsible enough to not get pregnant in the first place. The responsibility will always be yours, the majority of it, period. Because you have the portal, you have the womb, you have the first and last say so. So somebody replied to her, it's her fault. Both parties were wrong, and there are consequences to the things we do that may affect our children. I blame the father. He knew he was married. He's wrong for cheating, and she's wrong for bringing an affair baby to life. Absolutely. Y'all both wrong. I'm glad she liked this comment because earlier I said it's not enough. It's still not good enough, but I'm glad this comment opened up something for her so that she hopefully can let that burden go, because I also don't believe it's hers to carry, but it's not that simple because she can't erase her entire childhood. And now that she's older and can do the math, you think her is not her mama's fault? See if her mama won't gaslight her about this situation, because there is no excuse for her mother bringing her to that funeral whatsoever. I don't care if she felt righteous indignation. She should have came by herself. We really do suffer from our parents' bad decisions. Absolutely. I wonder why your mom decided to take you to the funeral if he was never present in your life. Because she's messy. Because she's messy and she cared more about her own feelings and agenda and trauma than she do her child, and that is unacceptable. No one ever considers the life that the kids inside babies live as a result of cheating. Yep. I wish people understood kids have nothing to do with adult problems. There shouldn't have been any rejection towards a child. Again, it's not that simple. His wife absolutely has the right to reject her. His wife do not have to be a good stepmom to her and allow her to be in her life. She can have a relationship with her other siblings if they want it. But so this comment said your siblings are older than your mom. That's crazy. So that means that not only this is what a generational curse look like, right? That means that her grandmother also left her mom to the wolves. See, because I have another video. People get on this internet and highlight their flaws every day and give me something to talk about every day. Your siblings are, if her siblings were older than her mom, that means her dad was absolutely a predator, meaning her mom did not prepare her as a young woman to make decisions. At the end of the day, you need to prepare women, but it's so funny because women aren't preparing their boy children or their girl children. In certain ways they do, and in certain ways they don't. Teach your teach your girl children starting when they're little to trust their own intuition. Stop teaching them and conditioning them that older people are always right. Learn to teach them how to get comfortable with that feeling in their gut when something doesn't feel right, but because they're a child, they don't have the vocabulary or language to express it to you. But because you told them to always honor and obey older people, and particularly men, because people keep teaching women that men are their leaders when men are their hunters and you are the prey. And her grandmother didn't prep her mother because that's why an older man was able to swoop in. You think I didn't have older men hitting on me as a little girl, as a young girl? I stopped having men hit on me around 24, where it was a lot. Men know what they're doing. They know when women look young. They know when girls look underage. They know what they're doing. And if you don't prepare your children, and this is a whole separate conversation from the shitty men, y'all sons y'all are raising, because y'all are raising them to be your sons, not men and not perverts. And all of this gets swept under the rug by mothers. Honey, you are an empath. Forgive them. They didn't see you. They saw your dad's infidelity. No, the dark feminine gives you permission. I'm petty for this. I'm about to reply. The dark feminine gives you permission. Let me type my comment. The dark feminine gives you permission to not forgive them. My typing this thing is going slow. It's getting on my nerves. I'm going to type that comment. You don't have to forgive anyone, okay? You don't have to forgive a soul unless you want to. You see how women are? Forgive them, forgive them. Bitch, just because you don't have boundaries don't mean she shouldn't have boundaries. They were grown. And no, she does not have to forgive them. You do, listen, this is Shadow Goddess Wisdom, okay? You do not have to release anyone from the debt that they owe you. You don't have to release anyone until they pay you, until you get restitution. Don't forgive shit. And even then, I still wouldn't forgive them. Forgive you in your own reality. Over here, mine, I don't forgive you. Maybe you'll forgive yourself. Maybe you'll work through that, but I'm not releasing anybody from the debt they owe me. Period. Post. It's not that simple. Listen, your children are your responsibility. And as long as women continue to play these games and continue to intentionally not see themselves, you will continue to raise a fucked up ass community because y'all don't care about the impact of your choices and y'all want it to be men's responsibility so bad, it's never going to be. Mama's baby, daddy's maybe. And that's why patriarchy has convinced you to let men pretend to be leaders of your household, even though they don't even know how to separate laundry colors. They have taught you to give your children their last names. I mean, I know people who give their kids the dad last names who their kids never even spent the night with their father. Their father has never spent a consecutive week with them, but your children have his last name? Goofy. Okay? And it angers me so much because people act like child-free people don't have a right to discuss child rearing. It is my pleasure. I'll do it for free until my last breath because parents aren't protecting their kids. And if y'all think women don't know what's going on, they know. They sweep shit under the rug and pretend that they're victims of patriarchy. No, you are the building blocks. Okay? We don't pretend that we're powerless women here, right? Shade the women in your life every chance you get that allow their children to be abused, that allow things like this to get swept under the rug because somebody should have corrected her mother and not allowed her as best they can to bring her into that situation because people think children are so dumb that they don't know that something is afoot, but it lives inside of them. She is a grown woman now and she is still processing. It might be for the rest of her life what happened to her. Your choice to bring children in less than ideal situations, again, you can do everything right and it still turns out foul because of the world we live in. Why are y'all still bringing kids here? Why are y'all having children to meet your emotional needs? Why are you weaponizing your children against their fathers, against other women? This will always be a war between women. And you think you were stupid enough, women were stupid enough to think that they had the game down enough to wield men. And now men are wielding you. Hmm. I don't feel sorry for any of y'all. Get it together. Join the Shadow Goddess Patreon, right? Subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can stay up to date with my content, so you can participate in lives. Let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. Women have this habit of throwing rocks and hiding their hands. And then when their kids get older and are able to do the math because they have the language and the wherewithal, you then gaslight your children. Millennials are going to turn around and do the exact same thing when their children get grown. I see so many memes talking about, oh, my child, and it's funny. But again, my third eye see everything. My shadow see everything. The meme would be like, oh, well, what did it say? My kids are gonna have to speak to their therapist about all the trauma from me putting them in all the sports that they wanted to and buying them all the sneakers that they wanted to. Y'all are just developing a different set of trauma for your children, giving them everything that they want in a world that's not going to give them everything that they want, spoiling them because you weren't able again, right? And I'm going to have a lot of videos on parenting and on motherhood because women got the game fucked up. They got motherhood fucked up. And yes, this child-free person will scold each and every one of parents that I can because y'all are fucking these children up and y'all are giving them a starting point way behind the fray, way behind where it should be. Y'all are now creating a group of children who don't know how to function, who don't know how to take rejection. You are supposed to fix your childhood. You're supposed to reparent yourself. You don't reparent yourself through your children because your children are whole separate entities than you. So what a lot of parents do is try to give their children what they didn't have instead of what their children need. If you learn what you didn't have and you learn to do better, guess what? You're automatically, for the most part, you should automatically provide your children with what you didn't have. You need to pay attention to what your children's needs are because your children's needs are not going to be your needs. So you giving them exorbitant amount of freedom because your parents wouldn't let you leave the house is not the solution. What if you have a kid that don't really want to go outside like a lot of these kids do? What if you have a child that end up hurting themselves because you gave them so much freedom that they can't handle because your parents restricted you so much? That's not what they need. What do your child need? Selfish, self-absorbed. And I will always talk about it. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can know whenever I drop videos. Join my Patreon. The link is in the bio. Danielle LaVirgo on all platforms, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Thank y'all so much for being here. Share your comments in the comment section. Share your opinions in the comment section. Let me know what you thought about the videos that I showed. I love to hear what y'all think.